Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kyle here with another Diablo Immortal video. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the absolute best Demon Hunter build here in Diablo Immortal. So what I did is instead of just putting it all on me, what I wanted to do is I wanted to look to all of the best Demon Hunters. I've looked at every single one of their builds, and I found the definitive best build from averaging out exactly what everyone takes based on their set items, legendary essences, skills, all of that stuff. We're going to find out what most people take in this to help break down exactly what is the best build here in Diablo Immortal. Before we get into this video, if we can get a like in the video, that'd be awesome. Also, subscribe to the channel for more Diablo Immortal content. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So the first place we're going to start is going to be the legendary essences that most people use. I think this is a great place to start, so we can get an idea of what people are actually trying to do with their skills. The most popular headpiece is going to be Boundless Ingenuity. Maximum charges on Daring Swing increased by 1, which will boost up the maximum swings to 3. Allows for a lot of escape potential, especially in hard PvE and mostly PvP. Then the next option is going to be Vision of the Lost. During Vengeance, each defeated enemy increases the remaining duration of Vengeance by 0.2 seconds up to a maximum increase of 2.4 seconds. I really like this a lot in farming PvE, whether it be doing open world farming or even in dungeons. I really like the additional boost to Vengeance. This is definitely not something I would be using in PvP, but really helps with open world farming. Then we'll move on to the shoulders. By far the most popular is going to be Vash's Typhonic Stampede. Rain of Vengeance summons waves of shadow beasts that dash forward. This is amazing, really takes Rain of Vengeance to the next level in my opinion, allowing for adding a knockback effect to the ability. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Then the next most popular one is going to be Decisive Report. This one might be even more popular, but this is one of the brand new legendaries that I think is actually pretty good, where multi-shot now knocks enemies away. This cannot affect players more than one time every 6 seconds. I can imagine this being fantastic in PvE and in PvP, so I can see this being actually pretty popular and might actually supersede Vash's Typhonic Stampede as the best legendary essence for the shoulders on Demon Hunters. Time will tell here, but this was definitely the second most popular one out of the top players. And by far the most popular chest piece is going to be Heart of Vengeance, just simply decreasing the cooldown of Vengeance by 15%. Then the next one is going to be Suit of Mordant, where Smokescreen now hurls an acid bomb that damages enemies continuously. I tried this out a bit and it's actually pretty good. It adds another ability on a 9-second cooldown that also boosts up all of your other damage by 10%. So this is another really good ability, especially if you want to have more just raw damage with no escape potential, for example. I think this is a great legendary effect. As for the pants, there's two options here. The main one is going to be Ruinous Path, increases all damage you deal by 6% during Vengeance. And then the second one is Koth's Unrelenting Fury. During Vengeance, every 2 primary attacks will cause you to launch 1 additional rocket that deals X amount of damage to a nearby target. Both really good options. On the main hand, there was 2 legendary essences that were pretty much split down the middle. First one being Flame Spite. Multi-shot now fires flaming arrows that damage and burn enemies. And then the other one being Breath of Winter. Multi-shot now fires frost arrows that damage and chill enemies. So I think both of them are very good. One, you can either go for a more damage build in the Flame Spite, or you can go for a more CC heavy build in the damage and chill enemies version with Breath of the Winter. Me personally, I like Breath of the Winter. I feel like it's more impactful in PvP, also pretty good in PvE as well, being able to chill enemies, especially in like hard challenge rifts, for example. It's actually kind of nice. For the most part, the main place I like it is going to be PvP. Then lastly, the only good offhand when it comes to the Demon Hunter class is going to be the Hungerer. Everyone has taken this one. Other options for the offhand legendary essence. So the Hungerer crossbow shot now will pierce through enemies and strike additional enemies behind that target. I think it's just amazing. This is usually one of the best essences as well. And then especially when you compare it to the other legendary essences, there's really no competition. Okay, and so next for the set items, we have to take this portion with a grain of salt because we're up to the mercy of RNG when it comes to what we're actually going to get as good rolls. But for the most part, what we saw here in the top players, by far the most popular is going to be either 2 or 4-piece Shalboss set. The 2-piece set, primary attack damage increased by 15%, and then the 4-piece is your primary attacks gradually increase your attack speed up to a maximum of 25%. Auto attacks are just such an important part of the Demon Hunter kit. It makes perfect sense why Shalboss set is so popular. Next, the second most popular is going to be 2 or 4-piece Vithus. The 2-piece increases the duration of all beneficial effects on you or your party members by 30%, and then the 4-piece increases the target's attack speed by 30% for 3 seconds each time you use a skill to grant a beneficial effect to yourself or party member. I think this is amazing. Both of them are very powerful effects. Pretty much what it comes down to is, do you want to have 4-piece Vithus and 2-piece Shalbas, or do you want to have 4-piece Shalbas and 2-piece Vithus? That's mainly going to be the spread that people take when it comes to being a demon hunter on set items. There is a few honorable mentions, such as 2-piece Isitar Imbued. Each time you defeat an enemy, you gain 30% increased movement speed for 2 seconds. I'm a big fan of this one. This really helps with farming the open world. Great set for that. Also, I have seen 2-piece Mountebanks. Each time you take damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 13% of your maximum life. Cannot occur more than once every 9 seconds. I think this one's okay. Probably better for melee classes, but still pretty solid survivability for Demon Hunter in PvP scenarios. Okay, so next is going to be the Paragon Tree. And this is where I think it gets pretty interesting, because there's quite a bit of variance in the choices that people made at the top when it comes to where they went on the Paragon. And I feel like this can actually be a pretty in-depth topic. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. Let's actually talk about this for a bit, because I think this is actually pretty interesting. The trees that everyone completely agrees on are going to be at minimum 63 points into the Gladiator tree, because this is going to get them uncontrollable. When struck by an effect which causes lost control of your character, you are immune. Cannot occur more often than once every 30 seconds. It's also going to hit quick-witted. Reduces the duration of loss of control effects against you by 10%. It's going to get cheat death. Fatal attacks from players instead reduce you to 1 life while making you immune to damage and stunning you for 3 seconds. So the self-imposed stuns, you can't move. After 3 seconds, you recover 60% life. Cannot occur more often than once every 120 seconds. Then at this point, since you're so deep into it, you might as well pick up the 2000 life and 500 damage. The bottom portion most people don't get, but a few did, is going to be down here, the potency trapper. Whenever you drop below 30% life, you will lay a trap beneath your feet every 5 yards. Over the next 6 seconds, cannot occur more than once every 240 seconds. And then lastly, rapid recovery reduces the cooldowns of trapper and uncontrollable by 10 seconds, which I think is actually pretty bad. This deep into the tree, and it only reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds when these are massive cooldowns as they are. Barely going to notice that. And then also one thing I forgot to mention is the armor you can get. You can put up to 20 points into armor as well. Most people skip all of those. So 63 is the standard there. Next, that is pretty much universal, is going to be 21 points into Treasure Hunter, which is going to get you 5 armor, Swift Learner, 50% more experience gained from defeating elite monsters. But the main portion that you're getting here is a quick 15 points of damage, which translates to 300 total damage. This is the main reason why people get it, is because it only takes 21 points to get 300 damage. The last thing people universally agree on is going to be 31 points into Vanquisher, because this is just raw damage. It gets you 100 damage off the first node, then you have to take Zeal because you can't continue without it, then 25 more points for 500 damage right there. 31 points into Vanquisher is pretty much a no-brainer. It's just a must-get, especially for a Demon Hunter. Gone that far, now is where it actually changes. But for the most part, every single person has taken at least 63 points into Gladiator, 21 points into Treasure Hunter, and 31 points into Vanquisher. So here's the couple options that you can take based on the top people on what you'd like to do. You have one person going all in on Gladiator tree and then put the remaining portion into Vanquisher. So he had 100 points into Gladiator and then roughly 50 into Vanquisher to get the extra 5,000 life. Then there was another person that put 58 points into Survivor, and I believe the main thing he was going for is this extra 500 damage down below here. So you have to invest quite a bit, but this is one of the best ways to get even more damage. The last main thing that people would do is it looked like they just went for as much damage as possible. They ended up going with the 31 points into Vanquisher, 21 points into Treasure Hunter, 63 points into Gladiator, 21 points into Soldier here, because I believe they were going for this damage node down here. There's 15 points you can put in for a total of 300 damage. He also put in 33 points into Mastermind because there is a damage node down here where there's 400 points of damage. And then I could tell one guy was trying to get as much resistance as possible, probably to avoid as much CC when he's facing other people in PvP. And you can get a ton of it here in the Soldier tree here. And then also you can get some in the Mastermind tree right there. But that's pretty much the main difference when it comes to this. I think the best way to go about the Paragon tree, especially as a Demon Hunter, I think it's a no-brainer to have the 63 points into Gladiator, the 21 into Treasure Hunter, and the 31 into Vanquisher. I think that's all correct. Trying to find as much damage as well after the fact there, I think is fantastic. Whether it be putting 58 points into Survivor, I kind of like that because it just finishes that out and you get all 500 points there. Then focusing on Soldier to get more damage here. And then lastly, Mastermind to get more damage at that node there. Eventually, we're going to just do this anyway, but essentially what it is just min-maxing how fast we get to that point of getting all the potential damage from the Paragon trees. Then it's going to be pretty interesting figuring out what the actual main tree we want to go. For the most part, Gladiator, because this is by far the best active tree when it comes to PvP. Then it's going to be pretty optional. In most PvE scenarios, I would say Vanquisher is a pretty standard good version. When it comes to farming, getting extra bonuses from Treasure Hunters, nice. And then I really like Mastermind, being able to have the extra crit and also the extra damage to bosses, because for the most part, when it comes to these dungeons, just killing the boss as fast as possible is the thing that actually speeds up the dungeon. I can see us, especially way long term, because we're eventually going to have 650 points on our Paragon trees. I can totally see us going for something like that and actually having the option based on that, not having to pick and choose at the moment, because we're so limited on our Paragon points now that for the most part, we're just chasing as much damage as we can possibly get. So when it comes to Reforge Stones, the ones I have seen are primary attack damage increase, which I think that's probably the best one, especially on a Demon Hunter. So all skill damage increased and critical hit damage. Attack speed increased by 2%, player damage increased by 1.5%, damage to elite enemies increased by 3 to 6%. So I think at the moment, having one of those reforges is totally fine. I just think later, I believe it's going to be about Paragon 220, when we can actually finally get these family bonuses. Then you're going to want to double down on whatever tree you actually go for, whether it be Wildfire set, Vengeance set, or the Ravager set. And I think overall, the best one is going to be the Wildfire set, because when you look at all of these all increase your damage, because you're going to have 4 eventually, because items with 3 bonus attributes from the same family unlock an additional family set bonus attribute, and you'll get the family bonus effect. If you had to take 4 out of these, I think Wildfire set by far is the best, because it's going to be primary attack, all skill damage, damage done to enemies below 30% life, and then the critical hit damage. But when you look at Vengeance set here, yes, you have the attack speed, which I think overall is probably one of the best. Then you have damage to players increased, and then the other ones are kind of a bummer. You have damage to enemies suffering loss of control. It's probably pretty good. And then you have to choose between damage to demons increase or damage to shielded enemies increase, which I think is not nearly as good as some of the other ones in the Wildfire set. Then you go to the Ravager set here. I think this is purely a PvE set. You have the really good one in the damage to elite enemies increased by 3 to 6%. Damage done to your summons increased by 2 to 4%. Then you'd have to choose between some pretty lackluster other attributes here on the Ravager set to round that out. So that's why I think, if anything, it's going to be between the Vengeance set and the Wildfire set, but for the most part, it's going to be all Wildfire, especially when we get to Paragon 220. And now the legendary gems that everyone takes. For the most part, you have to take this with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of RNG involved in here, and people are just trying to go for as most resonance as possible. So maybe people just happen to roll a ton of a particular legendary gem they might not necessarily want, but because they got a 5-star version of it, for example, then they had to go all the way with it. The only 5-star gem I pulled naturally was Phoenix Ashes, so that's why I went so far into Phoenix Ashes. But if I could, this would be something else, which in my case would be Echoing Shade for sure. So what most people take, I would say the absolute staples when it comes to legendary gems are going to be Bloodsoaked Jade, Seeping Bile, and Bottled Hope. I think Echoing Shade is amazing because it's going to create a clone of you, and the further you go into Echoing Shade, the better it gets, because you can get up to 3 clones, but that takes crazy amount of whaling to do. I think it's one of the best gems that gets better value as you invest into the gem, and especially with the Demon Hunter, because it's going to copy you, and you have a good auto attack, so then it's going to copy that auto attack. That's why a lot of Demon Hunters really like Echoing Shade. Okay, then you also have Howler's Call, that's pretty much in everyone's build. It's just a nice move that does a ton of damage. It's every 20 seconds you're going to get a big hitting ability. Usually it's probably your hardest hitting ability. At least it is for me. Maybe other classes have harder hitting moves, but as a Demon Hunter, it's the hardest hitting move. And then with a slight chance to stun, based on how much you actually invest in the gem, it's going to increase that stun percentage for you. At the moment, at a rank 6, it's doing 24% chance to stun for 3 seconds. So pretty nice there, especially in PvP. The final gems, for the most part, people have either Blessing of the Worthy, Phoenix Ashes. Some people have Chip of Stone Flesh, probably something that they just were stuck with because it had a lot of resonance for them. Also, you could have Winston's Haunting, but I would say those are the lowest priority gems for you as a Demon Hunter. All the other ones are going to be better for you. And you could even, depending on how much you want to spend, the other gems are going to be really good for you, whether it be Berserker's Eye. You could consider Fervent Fang. There's also Bloody Reach is fantastic, and also Power and Command. So there's a lot of gems out there for you, depending. This is all deserves its own video, but those are the main gems that people use at the top here. Next, we have normal gems. And for the normal gems, the red ones are very obvious. It's just Tourmalines, especially as a Demon Hunter, you're trying to do as most damage as possible. Then when it comes to the blue ones, 1000%, you're going to want armor penetration for sure. Then it just comes down to whether or not you want to go potency or resistance. And I think that by far the best thing to choose is going to be resistance, especially as a Demon Hunter, because there's not much CC you're actually applying as a Demon Hunter. So just being able to resist and give yourself a reduction in your CC. So how resistance works is compared against enemy potency to modify the duration of all harmful effects on you. Your resistance is, in my case, 210 higher than the potency of monsters your level in your current activity and difficulty, reducing the durations by 14%. Against players, durations are reduced by 35%. So just up to 35% when it comes to that. So this is all going to be comparative. If you're going to be doing a lot of PvP, this is probably something you would want to invest in. Counterpoint to that is there is a new legendary that Demon Hunters have that actually fears enemies. In Scattermask, activating Vengeance now immediately deals X amount of damage to all nearby enemies and causing them to flee in fear for 3 seconds. So this is something that would actually require potency. Then you would have to completely change that from resistance to potency gems there. But I think that's a little too niche to actually want to dedicate all your normal gems in the yellow slots for potency, in my opinion. Even though you do have the Rain of Vengeance here that also shoots the wolves out, that kind of stuns people a little bit and just kind of staggers them, I really don't think that's worth investing in potency. But if you really like Scattermask and you want to make sure that's actually going for the full duration, it's totally worth it. Also, other things too, a lot of people have been using these other versions of the kit with the slows and chill effects, so maybe you want to actually make sure that they get the full duration, so you go potency. So totally your choice there. Most Demon Hunters are pretty split down the middle between potency and resistance. Alright guys, well that's it for this video here. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think your favorite Demon Hunter build is, and with that guys, I'm out of here. Peace.